But the issue of the day will be Greenland, and President Trump will be there. What do you expect the discussions to swirl around?
Yeah, undoubtedly another gathering of world leaders just being dominated by an off-agenda geopolitical issue, once again involving Donald Trump. So tomorrow, Prime Minister Mark Carney is set to deliver his first special address to the World Economic Forum as Prime Minister. Certainly, he's been in Davos times before. But the topic, I think, of his speech is worth noting given the current context we're in. He's going to be talking about cooperation within an increasingly contested world. And when we're looking at the conversations that are happening at the sidelines, or will likely be happening at the sidelines of this summit around Trump and Greenland, I think that topic is quite heady and of the moment. So we don't know yet if the Prime Minister will cross paths with U.S. President Donald Trump, though, given the size of the U.S. delegation and the fact that some of his officials are already on the ground.
Now, the global order is being openly shaken. Donald Trump is threatening to take Greenland through pressure, tariffs, and even force if necessary. Many world leaders hesitate, ducking cameras or choosing silence. One leader is doing the opposite, Mark Carney. In a matter of days, he has crossed continents, reshaped Canada's trade posture, confronted Trump's escalation directly, and is now preparing Canada for a role in one of the most sensitive geopolitical flashpoints on Earth. This isn't routine diplomacy. This is Canada stepping onto the world stage and standing directly in Trump's way. Greenland is no longer just ice, isolation, and geography. It is leverage. It controls Arctic access routes, sits at the heart of emerging military and shipping corridors, anchors NATO's northern defense posture. Trump understands this, which is why he has revived the idea of taking Greenland, not through negotiation, through pressure. Tariffs on European allies, threats of escalation, and an implicit message you resist and pay. That is not diplomacy. It is coercion. Canada is now preparing to do something it hasn't done in a generation. Carney is actively weighing the deployment of Canadian troops to Greenland. Not as symbolism, as part of NATO sovereignty and infrastructure protection exercises. These drills exist for moments exactly like this. Territorial pressure stops being hypothetical and deterrence must be visible. By positioning Canada closer to Greenland, Carney is sending a signal even before any formal announcement is made. Canada is watching, Canada is positioned, and Canada is ready. Only with that context does Carney's earlier warning from Qatar fully come into focus. Speaking in Doha, Carney made clear he was deeply dissatisfied with the direction Trump was taking global affairs. He described tariff threats and territorial pressure as escalation, not negotiation, rejected outright the idea that economic coercion could justify challenging sovereignty. That wasn't posturing. It was preparation, with Canadian troops now potentially deploying to Greenland. Carney's message has moved from words to deterrence. This is not a threat and not a provocation. It is a boundary, clear signal to Trump that any misadventure, economic or territorial, will not be met with silence, hesitation, or fragmented responses. It will be met with allies standing together and Canada stepping forward. And this moment is bigger than Greenland. If a NATO member openly threatens territorial acquisition and faces no unified response, the alliance fractures. That fracture benefits only one actor, Russia. A weakened NATO in the Arctic undermines deterrence in Europe, destabilizes Ukraine's defense framework, invites revisionist powers everywhere to test boundaries. Canada's potential troop deployment is not symbolic. It is stabilizing. Carney has become one of the few Western leaders willing to challenge Trump directly, not emotionally, not theatrically, but institutionally, labeling tariff threats as escalation, by defending sovereignty as non-negotiable, by visibly aligning Canada with Denmark and Greenland. This is not anti-American, it is anti-chaos. That clarity is why Carney is now being elevated on the global stage. World Economic Forum has issued him a special invitation, not because Canada is loud, because it is coherent at a moment when global leadership is fractured. Rules matter. Borders matter. Alliances matter. That message is arriving in Davos at the exact moment Trump is also expected to be there. This year, Davos is not about speeches or symbolism. It is about containment. Trump's Greenland threats, his use of tariffs as political weapons, and his willingness to challenge sovereignty have pushed world leaders into crisis mode. Stability can no longer be assumed. Silence is no longer neutral, is why Carney's presence matters. He isn't there to observe. He's there to coordinate. Behind closed doors, he is working to align allies around a simple message: escalation will not be rewarded. European leaders need reassurance that NATO unity still holds. Smaller nations need to know they won't be left exposed. Markets need confidence that chaos won't dictate global policy. The contrast could not be sharper. Trump and Carney, in the same place, offering two visions of global order. One built on pressure and intimidation, on coordination and deterrence. If leaders leave Davos divided, escalation accelerates. If they leave aligned, it slows. That's why this year, Davos isn't a conference. It's where the response is being built. Only now do Carney's earlier trips fully make sense. His stops in China and Qatar weren't disconnected diplomacy. They were preparation. By expanding trade ties with China, Canada reduced its exposure to U.S. economic retaliation. By securing strategic investment commitments from Qatar, Canada strengthened its long-term economic resilience. Standing up to Trump carries costs. Carney made sure Canada could afford them. Many leaders talk about standing up to Trump. Carney built the conditions to actually do it. Diversified trade, reinforced alliances, prepared military options, and then acted. That's why Canada can consider deploying troops without panic. That's why Carney can confront escalation without bluffing. The groundwork is already in place. Greenland is not the end of this story. It is the test case. A test of whether rules still apply, whether alliances still function, and whether mid-sized powers can still shape outcomes. Now, Canada is choosing not to sit out history, and Mark Carney is choosing to lead. If you want serious, filtered analysis of Canada's role in a world under strain, subscribe to Capital Insight.